Have you ever noticed how busy we are? And even if we're not able to do a lot at the moment, our minds are just spinning and spinning. There's just something inside of us that says, you need to go slower. The books that I've read generally refer to a slow life as you're going to go out in the country, you're going to make all your bread, you're going to make all of your clothes, you're going to take care of animals, which is just not realistic. I was told about a book by one of my really good friends, and it is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. It took me a little bit to get around to reading it, even though I was so intrigued by the title. Well, finally, I started reading it, and I've been so taken by it that I have read it 4 times in 2 weeks. If you decide you want to buy this book, you just need to know that it is written by a pastor. He does talk about God and Jesus and relates the things that he teaches to scriptures from the Bible. He also quotes a lot of people that you would know, like Gandhi, because he has gone out and really researched this topic. He tells about 2 pastors, and one is a mentor. The one who's wanting help is named John, and his mentor is named Willard. So John called up Willard and said, "What do I need to do to become the me I want to be?" And Willard says, "You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life." I've been asking myself, why am I always in a hurry? When I go out and sit with my husband and my grandchildren around our fire pit, and we're going to make s'mores, and we're sitting there and the kids are enjoying it, and inside of me I feel the sense of hurry. When is this going to be over so I can get back and do this other thing, instead of just relaxing and enjoying the moment, which is what I'm trying to do? But I feel this little sense of hurry in me. Why is it that when I'm driving down the road and maybe I'm going to the store, so there's no appointment to get to, but I just look at the cars on the road and there's more space here, or this lane is going faster and this lane is going slower, so you just move over to the fast lane, and then when this other lane gets faster, you move back here, and so without even realizing it, you are hurrying down the road. Sometimes, and maybe you do the same thing, find yourself multitasking, and multitasking to the point that you've kind of forgotten what you started doing. I think the most obvious in the way that the problem I have, and I see my husband have it, is you're watching TV or watching a movie. You enjoy the movie, but you still find yourself reaching for your phone all the time. So you can look at your phone and check it because, oh my goodness, you don't want anything to happen when you're watching television that you can't take care of or you won't see. So there's this sense of hurry, hurry, hurry. And there's actually a name for it. It's called hurry sickness. And maybe you've heard that there was a cardiologist in the 80s who was studying what type of people were more likely to have heart disease. And he found that not only were they really busy, but they had something that he named hurry sickness. And a lot of people have talked about it. And it's not really something that a doctor could diagnose. There's not any test for it, but it's a pattern of behavior. And I have described ways that you can find out if you've got hurry sickness. Moving from one checkout line to another, counting cars in front of you and getting into the lane that has the least or is going the fastest, and multitasking. Now, John has come up with 10 more. So you might want to think about this while I read these. One is irritability. You get annoyed or mad or frustrated too much, and you don't really look at how you're treating your friends or your colleague or your family members. And the way it sometimes will show up for me is my granddaughter will come in and maybe I'm watching a TV show and I have to stop and listen to her, but inside of me I have that sense of, oh, I hope she hurries so I can get back to this, which is ridiculous, and I don't like that. And it's one of the symptoms that taught me I need to slow down. Somehow I need to slow down. Another one is hypersensitivity. When things annoy you too much, and it doesn't take much for your feelings to get hurt, or a small turn of events to just throw you into a tizzy. Another one is restlessness. And when you actually slow down and try to relax, you just can't relax. A fourth one is workaholism, or just non-stop activity. My mother was very much that way. She was always moving until she got too old. But most of her life she was just always moving, always doing things, to the point that my father's nickname for her was Popcorn. Another one is emotional numbness. You just really don't have the capacity to feel what other people are feeling, and sometimes yourself, because you're just in too big of a hurry to think about it. Another one is out of order priorities. You feel disconnected to your identity and your calling. You're always getting sucked into the tyranny of the urgent, not the important. Your life is reactive, not proactive. The next symptom is lack of care for your body. You don't have time for the basics like 8 hours sleep, daily exercise, healthy home-cooked food. Then there are escapist behaviors. When we're too tired to go and do what's actually important in our life and good for our souls, we tend to turn to our distraction of choice, like binge watching television, social media, surfing the web, and really just the kinds of things that we know that are our escape. Another one is slippage of spiritual disciplines. So he said, if you're anything like me, when you get over busy, the things that are truly life-giving for your soul are the first to go rather than your first go-to, such as quiet time in the morning, scripture, prayer, Sabbath worship on Sunday, a meal with your community, and so forth. When we get over busy, we get overtired. When we get overtired, we don't have the energy or discipline to do what we need most for our souls. The last one is isolation. You feel disconnected from God, from others, and even your own soul. The solution is not more time, which is what we often think when we are in a hurry and we're wanting to slow down. If I just had more time, then I would have time to pause and think. But the truth is, if we had more time, we would tend to fill it with more activities. They might be good things, but it would still be more. And we would not be behaving like an essentialist, which is to decide what's the most valuable, the essential, and do that. To not do all these non-essential things that are just wasting our time. This is a quote. This is the terrifying aspect of this conversation for me. Most of us waste copious amounts of time. For all the talk about hurry and overload, most of it is self-inflicted. When he has talked about eliminating hurry and slowing down to people in his life, so many of them said, I don't have time for that. I've got too much I'm doing. Sometimes they'll come back, do you watch TV? How much time do you spend on social media? Because you know what, it's really common for people to watch 2,737.5 hours of television a year. What? I read that and I went, what? And I kind of counted up how much time a day I watch. It's less than that, but it is a huge, huge number. And he said the average amount of time on social media is 705 hours a year. He brought something into this conversation which I had really never thought about. What was the lifestyle of Jesus? I mean, how did he actually live? Day to day, Jesus' schedule was full, but he never seemed hurried. He was constantly interrupted, but he never came across as agitated or annoyed. He regularly got up early in the morning and went off by himself to spend time with his Father in prayer. Sometimes he would go off overnight, sometimes weeks at a time. He practiced the Sabbath every week. He lived simply. You would never think about Jesus going around with a big set of luggage so that he'd have all these changes of clothing. We don't know how many changes he had. He might have a bag of things and he had some changes of clothing. You would never think about him having a great amount of things during this time when he was ministering. He spent time with his friends, and he did have wealthy friends, and he loved to have leisurely meals where he really talked to them. And you never got the sense that he was like, okay, let's get this over because I've got to get to the next thing. And if someone came up to him, wanted help, he never said, make an appointment with my disciples and I'll get to you in 2 weeks because right now I need to get over here. This kind of thing we do, but it's not the kind of things he did. Now we're going to talk about the 4 practices that John suggests that will help us to live an unhurried life. The first practice is silence and solitude. If you think about silence and being silent, we all know what it is to be in a quiet room and to not have any sound or having music or whatever come at us. We all know what it is to sit in a silent place. But there is external noise and internal noise. And the internal noise is this never-ending chatter. I've heard people call this a monkey mind, which is a perfect analogy because monkeys are just going all over the place and they're just chattering away. And that's what our brains like to do. Then we need to have experiences where we can still that monkey in our head. And so many of us find out that that's first thing in the morning because we haven't been assaulted with all the activities, all the demands, and we are quiet if we let ourselves be quiet. Now, if we are constantly reaching for our phone first thing, now we've introduced thoughts and noise, and it's harder for our mind to settle down. If we don't reach for our phone and we allow that quiet time, like I get up, I get showered, I get dressed. I have begun to not listen to anything, even a spiritual talk, just to be quiet and keep myself quiet. And then I come in and I do the meditation for 10 minutes because that really will quiet my mind even more. And I just sit in the quiet, and that's when I pray. Then I'll read scripture. Well, I'm as quiet as I can be. And then you know what I do after that? If I have a video to film, that's when I film it. Because that's when I am the quietest. Because that is the time when I am the most likely to be able to think and to be inspired with things that I can say that might help you. And we all need to have some isolation. Now, isolation isn't loneliness. Isolation is pulling ourselves away so that we can experience quiet. And my family knows that in the morning, when my door is closed, that's what I'm doing. I'm isolating myself, not in a bad way, but just so I can experience this refreshing, this setting, and this getting myself together. Because as soon as somebody comes in and talks to me, the quiet's gone. Well, you might be saying to yourself, but I work, or I have kids to take care of. When I was working full-time, I had so many responsibilities. I found that this time in the morning was so critical to me that if I didn't do it, I would feel more frantic all day long. I wouldn't do as well with my work or with interacting with other people. I would feel more tired at the end of the day. So I got up early. And I found that I had to get up at 5 o'clock. The second practice John recommends is to observe the Sabbath. He said the word Sabbath comes to us from the Hebrew Shabbat. The word literally means to stop. The Sabbath is simply a day to stop. Stop working, stop wanting, stop worrying, just stop. The Sabbath is more than just a day. It's a way of being in the world. It won't just happen to you. It takes planning and preparation. It takes self-control, the capacity to say no to a list of good things so you can say yes to the best. But Sabbath is the primary discipline or practice by which we cultivate the spirit of restfulness in our lives as a whole. The Sabbath is to the spirit of restfulness what a soccer practice is to a match or band practice is to a show. It's how we practice, how we prepare our minds and bodies for the moments that matter most. He said, if you're new to Sabbath, a question to give shape to your practice is this: what could I do for 24 hours that would fill my soul with deep, throbbing joy, that would make me spontaneously combust with wonder, awe, gratitude, and praise? So I grew up keeping the Sabbath day. We don't shop, we don't go to movies, we go to church, we fast, we pray, and then we try to fill the rest of our time. We'll spend time with our family, we'll eat a nice meal, but I've been kind of uncomfortable with how I have been spending the rest of my Sabbath, just knowing that I could do better with it, because it is a day that can really feast your soul and bleed out through the rest of the 6 days, and actually help slow down the rest of the 6 days, because you come back to yourself. The next practice he recommends is simplicity. And turns out that he is actually talking about minimalism, but not in the way that a lot of us think about it. A French sociologist made the point that in the Western world, materialism has become the new dominant system of meaning. He argues atheism hasn't replaced cultural Christianity. Shopping has. We now get our meaning in life from what we consume. Most of us would never admit it, but a lot of us believe the saying, I am what I buy. For a lot of people, things aren't just things, they are identities. Everything you buy costs not only money, but it costs time. And the more time it costs, the more hurry we feel. Then he explains what minimalism is not. It's not a style of architecture or design. It's not poverty. It isn't a bare home, an empty closet, a joyous life with no freedom to enjoy material things. The whole goal is exactly the opposite, more freedom. Minimalism isn't about living with nothing. It's about living with less. Thirdly, minimalism isn't about organizing your stuff. Joshua Becker, who used to be a pastor, writes about minimalism full time, and he defines it as this: the intentional promotion of things we most value and the removal of everything that distracts us from them. You know where I think the confusion is? There are some writers, blog writers, and some YouTube creators, and some commenters in videos about declutter and minimalism that are fixated on the number of things that you have, because that doesn't feel comfortable to so many of us. It becomes something that we are going to push back against. Well, I can't be a minimalist because I can't be limited in that way. And John is pointing out that's not what it's about. And Joshua Becker points out it's not what it's about. It's not removing the things we value. It's removing the things that we don't value. And I thought about that and I'm like, okay, that is something that I can get on board with. John points out that minimalism isn't about your money and stuff. It's about your whole life. To live this way, we have to pare down all our resources, both time and money. So the goal isn't to just declutter your closet or your garage. It's to declutter your entire life. He has a lot more to say about this. The last practice is slowing. So how do we slow down? How do we practice slowing? The basic idea behind the practice of slowing is this: slow down your body, slow down your life. Here are some of the practices that surprised me, but didn't surprise me. Drive the speed limit. Not below the speed limit, that's annoying to other people, but right on the money. The next one is to get in the slow lane. Just rock it with the grandma and the Oldsmobile or the semi-hauler. The next one is to come to full stop at stop signs. By the way, the next time you try this, notice how hard it is. The fourth practice is don't text and drive, which in Utah is against the law. It's really dangerous. Don't do it. The next one is to show up 10 minutes early for an appointment without your phone. Without your phone. Oh my goodness. Leave your phone in the car. The next one is to get in the longest checkout line at the grocery store. He said, "Oh, you're hating me now. In an efficiency-obsessed culture, why would we do that? That's literally wasting time on purpose." And he said that's why he does it sometimes. It's a way to slow down my life and deal with the hurry in my soul. It gives me a few minutes to come off the drug of speed, to pray, to take inventory of my emotional and spiritual vitals. Another idea is to turn your smartphone into a dumb phone. So take your email off your phone, take all social media off your phone, disable your web browser. I could not do that one. I could not do that. I use it for looking things up too much. Delete all notification. I do that. I have very few things that notify me. Ditch the news apps, or at least the news alerts. Delete every single app you don't need or that doesn't make you take your life seriously. Get a flip phone or ditch your cell phone altogether. There are a lot of young people that are going to flip phones. Use set times for email. He says to get rid of your TV. I would not want to do that. I know people that do. I have an aunt who doesn't have TV, and there are some people that go to our church, never had TV, and they've had a perfectly happy life, and maybe we would if we got rid of all these TVs. But I do think, and he agrees, that if you don't want to get rid of your TV, to have a set time limit. So you're like putting yourself on a TV diet. Single task, walk slower. My mother could have used that. You know, well, I used to do chores for her, and she would be going like this, and I'd be going my slower pace. She said, "You need to go faster." And I said, "Why? I'm going to get it done." I remember my dad, we'd go somewhere with him to like a museum or amusement park, and he'd just be walking along and looking at everything. Then he said, take a regular day alone for solitude and silence, and experiment with mindfulness and meditation, which I have mentioned I do. He recommends taking long vacations if you can. And then he said to cook your own food and eat in. Fast food is fast, not food. Real food takes time. We're okay with that. This slowing down, this getting rid of the hurry, is an internal thing. Well, we will walk slower and do things slower. And if we're doing what Essentialism recommends, we will only be doing the things that are essential and dropping the things that are non-essential. How are we going to live our life? Are we going to allow it to drive ourselves faster and faster and faster? Or are we going to make real decisions that cause us to slow down? Here is a video that YouTube, that knows you so much better than I do, feels that you're really going to enjoy. I'll see you next time. Bye.